Well, that goddamn karma come back around quick, don't it? Mother was talking all this shit about we didn't want the fight, we didn't want this, we didn't want that. I tried to tell everybody that $750,000 he tried to put it under the table. Boots wasn't supposed to run his mouth, he wasn't supposed to say shit, and shit wasn't even supposed to be heard of.
Come. You're not stupid, right? Where do you think the money comes from?
Matchroom promoter Eddie Hearn completely slammed Brian Norman Jr.'s father for rejecting the Boots Ennis fight, but it seems like karma has its own way. Eddie Hearn mocked Brian and his team for missing the Boots Ennis chance and then settling for a low-level fighter like Derek Cuevas. Eddie stated that Brian's team know nothing about the business of boxing.
Who's going to pop up next? Derek. You know?
He's basically came out and said that you're 200 grand off where they want to be. What did you offer them, first of all?
Donuts. Let me tell you something now. It's over. You know, because when the IBF set the purse bid date, anybody who knows anything about the business of boxing, unfortunately Adrian and Brian do not fall in that category, you cannot no longer request a unification fight.
During the negotiation phase, Hearn reportedly sent 3 fight offers to Brian Norman Jr.'s team, but none of them were satisfactory enough for them. The last and final offer from the Matchroom head was reportedly $1.2 million, but the Assassin 2 turned it down, reportedly asking for $2 million. After Brian Norman Jr. successfully priced himself out of the fight, Eddie Hearn was visibly frustrated, taking shots at Brian Norman and his manager Adrian Clark. He told IFL TV, "Congratulations, guys. You it up. You're gonna get $200,000 to fight on a prospect's undercard." Eddie compared Brian Norman's father to Bill Haney, claiming that both fathers outpriced their sons. Well done. Magical. Brian Norman Sr., he's like Bill Haney from Wish. Further elaborating on the massive paycheck Norman Jr. missed out on, Hearn explained, because of what Boots was prepared to take for the unification, this would have been a 50-50 split. Yet Norman won't take 17.5 times what he made in his last fight. That's where the game is so messed up. Hearn was absolutely furious at Brian and his team, including his promoter Adrian Clark, for rejecting the Boots Ennis fight, so he mocked them in an interview session.
No, go on. You got to ask me questions first.
Right, let's go.
Eddie, have you heard of Bob Smith, who manages what someone said this?
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about already. Norman's managers came out and said that
Who's Norman's manager?
You tell me.
I don't know.
You've seen what he said.
Who is he? What's his name? Now you got
to need to check that now.
You talk about is that
Adrian Clark? Actually, before I even get checking, that's it.
No, I didn't realise it was Adrian Clark. Go on, yeah. What did Adrian Clark? I mean, firstly, one of the problems is Brian Norman's called Brian, right, which ain't great, and Adrian Clark's called Adrian. So I'm now in a negotiation with Brian and Adrian.
Hearn further stated that Brian Norman Sr. came to him after the purse bid date had passed and claimed that they are willing to do the fight, but not in Philadelphia. Eddie shockingly stated that Brian's team is delusional because they don't know where the money comes from. Eddie elaborated on where the money in boxing comes from. "From the broadcasters, thank you the zone, and from the gate. Did you see the gate at Wells Fargo? I can't lose a 20,000-seat gate and just roll the dice doing it in Vegas. I mean, with all due respect, last time I checked Brian Norman weren't that popular in Vegas." On the other hand, Boots Ennis turned his attention to Norman Jr. after he defeated his most recent opponent and claimed that he had sent an offer to Norman's team.
Norman, he defeats Giovanni Santillan, stops him. Great fight, great performance. Him and his father's on record saying that they wanted to save you for last, being that the relationship and that they look at you as the toughest fight. That was right after Santillan. But as of recent, they're saying that if it's next, then it's next.
Offer was sent. Offer was sent 2 days ago.
Previously, it was believed that Norman and his team considered Boots to be the best in the welterweight division, so they were keeping him as their last opponent. Boots explained that he received no back-and-forth negotiation from Norman's team, although they had been willing to fight him back at home in Philadelphia as well. Ennis was of the opinion that they turned down the offer for a unification bout. Jaron Ennis is desperate to become the undisputed champion in the welterweight division, and he was extremely frustrated with the way Norman Jr.'s team were behaving. "I don't know if he's looking for a retirement check or what, but I heard him say I ain't a big dog. dog. If you don't think I'm a big dog, why would you turn down your biggest payday multiple times? Come on! Boots commented that he doesn't care who he fights next. His only goal is to collect all the belts. Jaron was committed to focusing his energy on becoming undisputed and collecting the WBC, WBA, and WBO belts. Furthermore, Hearn mocked Norman Sr. for demanding an absurd amount of money and said that he would rather do the fight where it generates more money.
Are you saying that you would openly do it in this
Oh, you dickhead. Of course I wouldn't. Saying, boys? Of course I wouldn't. I'm going to do the fight where the fight generates money. You got all these people come out on, like, you know, mobile phones and, like, you know, Brian Norman Sr. It's like Bill Haney from Wish, right? And it's like, yeah, we want 2.5 million.
Hearn also stated that Brian Jr. is from a remote place in Georgia, so he and his team are high on drugs if they think that they can generate enough money in a small place like that. On the opposite end, Brian Norman Sr. fired back at Eddie Hearn for lying to everyone's face and giving Norman Jr. a lower price than he deserved.
Well, that goddamn karma come back around quick, don't it? Mother was talking all this shit about we didn't want to fight, we didn't want this, we didn't want that. I tried to tell everybody that $750,000 he tried to put it under the table. Boots wasn't supposed to run his mouth, he wasn't supposed to say shit, and shit wasn't even supposed to be heard of. The only reason it's heard of it because we goddamn got offended by the motherfucker saying we turned it down, and there it is. And that's what started all of this.
Brian Sr. said that Jaron Boots Ennis will never be undisputed welterweight champion because he has a promoter like Eddie Hearn who doesn't want to play ball by negotiating fairly. Norman Sr. revealed that Boots Ennis will be paid $5 million for his November 9th fight. He said that Hearn is acting like a king, thinking he's dealing with mere peasants, offering $1.75 million for WBO welterweight champion Norman Jr. to fight in an enemy territory in Philadelphia on November 9th. Brian Sr. elaborated on what Boots will be making in terms of dough. Hearn didn't want to get it done. If Boots made $3.3 million for the David Avanesian fight, he's going to make at least $5 million for this one. So it's a unification bout, so he's going to make at least $5 million for this. Previously, Brian Sr. said that they'll only agree to the $1.7 million offer if the fight with Boots Ennis is held on neutral territory in Las Vegas. However, Hearn didn't like that idea because he wanted to stage the fight at the 21,000-seat Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia, where a Boots Norman Jr. clash would likely sell out due to the interest the match would have. Brian Sr. further elaborated on why he thinks Eddie Hearn is poison for Ennis. Boots wants to be undisputed. I'm telling you, Boots and Bozy Ennis, you're not going to get a chance at nothing because he ain't trying to pay. So y'all need to do what Errol Spence did, say, give the man what he wants, even if you have to take it off of mine. Give that $500,000 over to the other end and let us get that fight. Brian Sr. declared that Eddie Hearn will make Boots move up to 154 and drop the current belts because he is doing things against his fighter's wishes.
Eddie wanted to lose that purse bid. Now he's gonna try to get Boots to pull up, the move up to 154, drop the belt, and do some other shit. It's about what Eddie want, and then about what Boots want. Hey man, look, Carmen is a mother. Y'all can't say shit now. Eddie just showed y'all he ain't playing with the money. He just got outbid by $250,000 against his fighter's interests. I mean, it's simple, bro. Come on, man. I seen the play a long time ago.
Furthermore, Eddie Hearn said that Boots was prepared to take the fight with Norman Jr., in which they would have made the same amount of money as anywhere else.
So you're saying that if you were offering 1.25 million to each of them?
I'm saying, no, it's much more than that. I'm saying that Boots has agreed to try and make this fight happen in a situation where basically they're going to get pretty much the same amount of money.
On the other hand, Eddie Hearn shared the three fighters that he wanted to make Boots Ennis fight next, and Eddie ridiculed Brian Norman Jr. once again.
Who's pushing you on a decision right now? Who do you think it'll be for Jaron Ennis?
For me, I don't really want to see him give up the world title because I want to see him spank Brian Norman. I want to see him pummel, what's the geezer's name? Stanionis. And I want to see him in a war with Maros Barros, which is the toughest of the three fights.
Hearn did not miss the chance to slam Brian Norman and his team as he said that they have officially turned down $1.75 million, a fight that was in front of 20,000 people, and then accept a fight for $200,000 on Keyshawn Davis undercard in Virginia, only in front of 3,000 people. Eddie stated that Brian is never going to make that type of money anywhere. So once Team Norman have thrown up in their soup, they'll be sitting there going, what are they going to do? Where else can they make that kind of money to fight anyone? It has to be Boots. Eddie also shunned Stanionis and Mario Barrios Barrios for not accepting the fight with Boots, as he claimed that the money fight for these fighters is Boots, and it makes sense for all players. Hearn commented that it's so frustrating dealing with people who have no idea how boxing bids work, and that makes all of these fighters, including Bryan's team. Meanwhile, Eddie Hearn also claimed that Jaron "Boots" Ennis could vacate his IBF welterweight world title and move up for his next fight because Hearn has been in talks with Serhiy Bohachuk and Israel Madrimov. Furthermore, Eddie also suggested that he has made 3 offers to Bryan and his team, but they are delusional or just using Boots' name to promote themselves. Bryan Sr. elaborated on the second and third offers that came from Hearn. The second offer was less than half of what Boots made his last fight. The third offer was half of what Boots made his last fight, to be exact. Down there, they're literally half of what Boots made his last fight. So imagine what Boots is going to make in this unification bout. Moreover, Hearn shockingly revealed that the IBF just called out Jaron to defend his title against Karen Chukadjian. Eddie Hearn seemed disappointed at the IBF for calling out a rematch because he was of the opinion that he needed to make Boots fight Conor Benn, which would have been an amazing fight for the fans. Hearn distressingly claimed that he is not over the moon when he heard about Karen because Jaron Boots has already fought him before. Eddie further commented on his hands being tied when it comes to the biggest fight for Boots. There's nothing we can do in terms of the mandatory that's been called, but we want to make the biggest fights out there, so it's frustrating. If it's a fight that has to be ticked off quickly, well, we'll do it. Meanwhile, Karen Chukadzian's promoters P2M Box Promotions have reportedly won the purse bids for the Jaron Boots Ennis IBF mandatory rematch after outbidding Eddie Hearn's Matchroom by around $250,000. It's no surprise that Brian Norman's manager Adrian Clark made fun of Hearn when Karen's bid outpursed his. It seems as though Brian and his team are ducking Boots Ennis. To add more substance to the accusation of ducking, Jaron Ennis's father, Bozy Ennis, has come up with an interesting detail about one of the sparring sessions between his son and Brian Norman Jr. Jaron's father revealed that Boots beat Norman Jr. within 3 rounds in a sparring session. Additionally, Bozy Ennis explained that Ennis was sparring in a style Norman Jr. was comfortable with, but still beat him. Brian's father said that they'll do however many rounds of sparring they want. I said okay, they got in there. Boots broke him down in 3 rounds and I made Boots fight inside with him, his own game, and backed him up. Reflecting on the sparring session, boxing trainer Greg Hackett also commented that by the 3rd round, Boots was dominating Norman, and he almost got knocked out. Then Bozy Ennis interrupted the session and told Norman's father that they did not come here to have a real fight, they can come over in Philadelphia to finish the clash. Hackett further claimed that Norman's father said the same thing about Boots, that he was going to get knocked out in the first 3 rounds. Brian Norman Sr. took the sparring session to heart and started talking bad about Boots and his father. Meanwhile, Brian Sr. said that his son is a world champion, and both Boots and Norman Jr. bring the same qualities and skills to the table.
Just a little bit more than what you gave David Abnesian, and my son is a world champion. He brings to the table the exact same thing that Boots brings to the table. Boots doesn't bring anything more to the table than my son brings. It's a unification bout. He has his belt, my son has his belt. My son is taking all the chances. He's taking all the risks.
Brian Sr. severely doubted the intentions of Hearn to make the fight in the first place, so he completely blasted Hearn for making false assumptions and lying to the fans. In another interview, Brian Norman Jr. clapped back at Jaron Boots Ennis, claiming that he and his team accepted their offer the same day it was posted. Norman said that he got the offer at the same time Jaron spoke bad about them.
Jaron Ennis spoke on negotiations with you. And he's on record saying that you and your team turned down the fight.
Yeah.
What's your response to that?
Real quick, just want to get my dates wrong. When was that interview posted or done?
Tuesday.
All right, so the interview was done Tuesday, but we also got the offer on Tuesday and sent back our counter offer on Tuesday. So I don't even know if things are able to get that counter offer to even say I accepted or declined. First thing first is we did decline the fight. I mean, not decline, we did accept the fight.
Brian elaborated that he doesn't duck his opponents and he is ready for a fight anywhere, anytime. And just like I said before, I'm always down to come to your hood and get this work in. So it never been that I never been no bitch. Don't let this light skin fool you. I'm ready for all of that. The desire to become the undisputed champion consumes Jaron Ennis. He has stated that a welterweight unification match will be the subject of his next fight. It looks like Jaron's hopes to fight Brian Norman Jr. for a unified championship in the welterweight class are gone. However, do you believe that Brian Norman Jr. made the right decision to decline the highly lucrative and significant fight? Or do you believe that Eddie Hearn would have been willing to give Norman Jr. the $2 million that he requested? Let us know in the comment section below.